So when it comes to what is truth about power, is power likes to be unseen, true power. So like you have Trump is the forefront of the an extension of nothing else than the English monarchy asserting economic dominance over the United States to maintain titles of ownership that they have in places that if America upheld its sense of its advertised sense of independence, like with the Monroe Doctrine, we would have been at a constant state of war with England from all of the Caribbean, the Falkland Islands, the mining operations that they have throughout the Western Hemisphere, which is what the Monroe Doctrine is about. Um, we wouldn't have an electoral college. We probably would not have a Senate. You have to understand that. A Senate comes from Rome. It means senax. Senax is old man, elder, specifically masculine. And that was only put in Rome to be a barrier, a wall, a fence, a gate to prevent the public from having any control over the operations of the state. So, and that's why we have a constitution, because the constitution enshrines the Senate as an oligarchy, which we're seeing. It's never not been an oligarchy, and we see it today and think that this is we're so conditioned because of European society's influence over the American society's vision of civilization that we think that wow, this is just the way it is because that's the way they are. But we never intended to be like them. That was if there's any truth to what America was ever attempting to be, it had see this is where it gets very tricky because like all right anyway, but my point is I'm gonna keep it short. I got this book off YouTube. Lucky I steal shit off YouTube. Okay, and this book I got off YouTube. It was full audiobook. You see, it's 11 hours. I've listened to it 3 times. This is my collection. Just so you know, this is the app that I use to get this kind of material off. It has to be updated routinely to bypass any type of preventative measures or security measures that Alphabet Inc. comes up with. And so, like, I didn't use it for 2 or 3 months because the versions, or at least on my phone, they weren't. This is really weird. It's not loading for some reason. Maybe it's because I'm recording. I don't know what kind of safety measures they have. But anyways, this has done great stuff. And oh, but it won't show you like how I use it. Oh, that sucks. Because I think I have some videos on it. Oh, there you go. So like this is how it is. Like I'm collecting my K1 so I can have these K1 things. I like these. Um, but I got a bunch of stuff. All of the history videos that I get. I mean, this is more stealing because of the content creators. But where am I at here? Movies. I'm gonna do it like a list. My bad. So like all of these I steal using that app, and you can choose the I like to pick them. I like to get them small so I can get more space. So I only do 720. If I could do a movie, because I do all, it's very rare to get a movie that I actually want to get off of YouTube. But sometimes I got some great animes that come up ovas and shit like that I like to get, or old school cartoons from like the 70s and 80s that are obscure. But anyways, so I just want to point out I got that book from YouTube, and today I watched this video on YouTube. I specifically got this. I didn't get it. I didn't know what it was gonna be about, but I had a hunch. Oh, it's right there. My bad. Oh, I made this. I forgot I made this profile based on this. This video inspired me to make a profile. So I watched this video, um, And I knew the way I was introduced to this region of Italy was I was homeless for 5 years in Los Angeles from 2015 to 2020. Around 2018, I started, you know, attending a homeless provider, homeless needs provider, something like that, at a Lutheran church in North Hollywood. I forgot what it's called, but it's on Camorra and Lancashire basically, and Vineland. It's like a three-way street. It's like six-way street technically. So, anyways, while I was there, one of the volunteers, I was into Roman history and Latin because of my study of Black's Law Dictionary. So, Black's Law Dictionary is a lot of Latin maxims. So, I collect those. I've actually read a lot of Black's Law Dictionary. Put it like that. Oh, my bad. Put it like I use. Put. God damn. I use. What the hell? Just. Oh my gosh. Delete, bitch. What the fuck is going on here? Okay, so you see, I use Black's Law Dictionary so much that it's always on my phone. So all of these things, Black's Law Dictionary has a bunch of Roman maxims. And Roman maxims obviously come out in Latin. So this is redere nil aliud est quam acceptum resteturer seu redere est quasi retrodare et retidur dicitur. The C is always a hard K sound in Latin. There is no such thing as a soft C in Latin. Eredundo quia retroit. So, because of that, it's given me some familiar. I'm not saying I know how. I've never taken a class or anything like that, but it's basically I get the gist because of my exposure to Spanish. Half of my family is Mexican. So, but I'm only like 12% Mexican. 40% German, 17% Swedish, like 13% Italian, 12% Spanish, 12% Mexican, 9% Colombian, and I think 1%. No, I know 1% Bangladesh. Something like that. So, anyways, while I was there, one of the volunteers, because what did I get into? I started getting into. Oh, that's what it was. My bad. I found this. Uh, Omni? No, 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 no. Quam. Quam. There we go. I found this. So I found this in a book in 2017. And so I love this quote. I threw away the translation with the book, to be honest, because it was a small book. It was a pamphlet, actually, from Friends of the Library. It was just a pamphlet, as you can see. I think I have the quote on it. Oh, I have it someplace else, right here. Oh no. Oh, here we go. No. Anyways, I have the source material. Oh, here we go, right here. Coordinato, Journal of the Friends of the Libraries, Fall 1966. Okay, so it was on a free book rack. So I took it. It was about Schopenhauer, and he actually bought he spent a lot of money to buy one of only 14 copies of an original press from St. Augustine, who's a Catholic. And he did that, and he wrote notes in it because as much as the Catholics want to act like he's smart and sacred, St. Augustine matters, Schopenhauer was showing his work is trash in one sense. It's not worth being held sacred. So part of the joke that Schopenhauer did was he wrote notes in it in Latin on the pages. I took all the quotes that were provided in it. I copied them all down. I still have them. I still use them as comments all the time because they're very good. But this was my favorite one. Quam magligna sacerdotali ignoratia noster similat se ignorare per peccaturum primorum parentum nihil aliud intelligi. Quam ipsum coitum quod quidque manifestum est sed verabatur allegorie janvam aspiere ne postea omnia invaderet. So, I wasn't 100% sure I wanted to get this right, but like I didn't know about the hard K. And in a lot of videos online, that especially in America, you have to understand this is a joke that they do in Life of Brian from Monty Python, when they have the Roman guy. What are you talking about? Because the Americans all try to inflect that every V sound in Latin is actually a W sound. It's like, it sounds fucking stupid and childish, but because you have every level of academia all the way into Ivy League schools in America teaching this stupid fucking shit, Americans think that this is legitimate Latin. So there's a volunteer, and any homeless center that I went to, I volunteered my time because I was getting their services. If I needed to sweep, put up chairs, put away chairs, clean something up, mop something, anything that they needed, dump the trash for them, I would volunteer. And I got into various levels at the different places that I went to. Like for 7 months I ran as a volunteer and a homeless person at the same time. It wasn't, don't get me wrong, this is not exploitation. I appreciated the opportunity, and I didn't expect anything in return. The company had to give me something in order to call me uh, like on their, not on their payroll because I wasn't being paid, but to just to have, because it's the nature of the game. So Hope of the Valley is the biggest homeless service provider in the San Fernando Valley. I ran the food services for the morning. I didn't do the lunch, but I did the breakfast and set up the lunch. I didn't. The lunch came from a satellite location from a chef that was hired, and he was getting paid like $50,000 a year or some shit like that. And the funny thing is, I actually had what do you call it? A professional connection to the chef. I never met him personally. I mean, I met him personally before, but it was a long time ago, and it was only one time. But he actually worked under the chef that I worked for as a front of a house employee at DreamWorks Studios in like 2008 or something like that. And it was Brian Scarfalo. So that was just kind of like a funny little connection. But anyways, so they gave me what do you need for help? You want to set up? Well, we need help for this morning for breakfast. So I, had the bagels. They have these bagels. So I was like, okay, I got the bagels. They had a stove at the church. That church was at Van Nuys by the court. Van Nuys, and I forgot what it was. But that was also a Lutheran church, now that I think about it. But Lutheran church, because they have the really low attendance, they look for, but they're still a business, so they look for alternative income sources, and that tends to be providing homeless services. That's just basically what I've discovered. So the church had a really old oven. I'm talking about really old oven, probably from the 1940s or 30s. I'm not kidding. It was like cast oven. It was big and hardy. So they typically didn't use it. Well, the first thing I did with it was I just used one of the range burners to boil a bunch of eggs because one of the things too is that every week the Trader Joe's, every day Ralph's would bring bread to us that was close to expiration. That way they can get a tax write-off. And then every week Trader Joe's would bring us stuff that sometimes it wasn't even at the expiration date. It was like a day or two before the expiration date, or on the expiration date, or maybe even 3 days before the expiration date, but they just assumed that it wasn't going to sell, and they would rather get full price write-off or however that works than, a loss, have to damage it out. So we would get literally full van loads. So the first thing I did is I helped unload one of these vans, and I saw all these eggs come. So if there's an egg cracked in a crate, they would bring us literally the dozen. So we would get something like 50 to 70, I'm not kidding, crates of eggs, or dozens of eggs. And you'd have like 3 or 4 cracked, maybe even half cracked, but still you have eggs. So I sifted through and got all the uncracked eggs, got a big pot, and then made boiled eggs, and then just put the eggs out. That was actually went off really good, because it used to just be literally Ralph's delivers the breads, because they're from their pastry, in black trash bags. And the typical thing was open up the trash bags and let the people rummage through them and get whatever, the homeless people, which again I was, rummage through them and get whatever they wanted. So I also found cooking sheets inside of the kitchen because they used to use it decades before, and I put them all out, the bagels and the pastries on the cookie sheets, so that way people didn't have to go through the multiple people didn't have to go through the bag. You could just get whatever you wanted off of the cookie sheet. But the eggs went off really, 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 really good. So the next thing I did was I got tuna. This wasn't even using the stove, but I got tuna, and then I just made tuna. Basic tuna. Some salt, a little bit of pepper, mayonnaise, and tuna. And it was just for if you want it, it's there for you. And some people ate it, and they were like, "Hey, this is pretty cool," and that got really, really positive responses. So because it's a business and they like that kind of stuff, they started to encourage me. So, all right, I was like, I'll push it a little bit further. And within a month, the business operator, I forgot her name, Lori, that was her name, Lori. Her and her husband did it. I'm sure they're divorced now because her husband, I forgot what his name was, but they had no, like, it was interesting. But anyways, they're nice people, but they were just not, because of the pressure that marriage puts on you to stay together. They probably would have been better if they would have just agreed to be business partners than try to or overrun their time in a marriage. Everything had just kind of dwindled down. But so she ran it, and he was like the face of the place. He was like, it's a white man world, so he's like running around, acting like he's doing all the work, driving around in the Mercedes, getting business meetings and having business lunches and basically spending money to make money. And she's on site dealing with the homeless people and employees. And you got to understand, they employ at the bottom of the barrel. No offense to the people that they employ, but they literally take people that might just be on the brink of homelessness or might just have come out of homelessness. And they are willing to do 10 times the work for the base pay. And it's all marketed as generosity but it is psychologically straining because the people that they're hiring have no resources or tools other than their own defense mechanisms that they've developed over the years. So anyways, the program ended up blowing up, and so it went to very consistently towards the end. I hated it because I wanted to be a loner as a homeless person. I liked being alone. I had a hammock. I would go to nature places, Griffith Park, Chatsworth Park, and just places like that. And and even on the beach, places I'd go to the beach and I would use my hammock, and I could sleep places that other people. I slept on the side of freeways, but not on the side of freeways, but on a hammock, like hanging there, because I found those to be the most secluded places where I smoked weed. I didn't smoke cigarettes. Well, actually, a couple times, yeah, I did smoke cigarettes off and on during that 5 years. So I could just, smoke and watch videos, go to sleep by like 10 o'clock, wake up at like 5 o'clock, which was pretty normal for me, or even 4:30, get up, be on my way. So, but the food program got so popular because within a month or so, the business realized, hey, we can use this as a marketing tool. So they got a grant for the church to get a brand new Vulcan oven, like state of the art oven. So we got that delivered, and I'm running the kitchen. So we put it in there, and you got to light the pilot. And there was one guy that was there that I had talked to all the time that worked for Johnny Rockets hamburger place for 25 years, and then the location closed as more and more Johnny Rockets closed. And he was out of work, and he fell into alcoholism, and then his family pushed him off, and then he fell into homelessness. And I was into food service, so we talked about stuff, and I could tell he really liked it. He was really, really good. So I used like a reverse psychology on him. And I was like, dude, I can't, how you light the oven, you just press the you hold the button. It's a little twist and it turns like you do a freaking heater, okay? But I played stupid, so I went and got him. But then I dumbed myself down in a way, because you got to understand there's a little edge, a little aggressiveness there, so that he could so he could jokingly belittle me, like, man, what's the matter with you? You say you work in a kitchen and you don't even know how to do this? and that kind of shit like that. And I was like, hey man, just because I cook doesn't mean I know how to fucking do this kind of stuff. And then well, what do you mean? What kind of cook is that? How do you not? So that hooked him in. So then he became the cook, and we went to a full scale like food service, serving breakfast, eggs, pancakes, potatoes, pork chops, everything. So we were getting over, it went from like 50 to 70 people who were getting bagels. Again, just bagels. Well, you get cream cheese of some sort. But they were just bagels. They cut them themselves and everything like that. It wasn't cut. It wasn't warm. Or pastries. To full food service. Okay. So when I left that place, I got arrested and was in jail for 26 days. And when I got out of jail, I just didn't want to go. Well, there's other things that happened there too. There was actually a police shooting where they murdered, LAPD murdered a homeless woman literally on site at the church. I wasn't there at that time, but they murdered they didn't murder. The other guy doesn't technically count as a murder because he was holding the homeless blind woman hostage with a knife to her throat. And the LAPD officer claimed that he saw him start to cut her neck. So he opened fire, which instinctively got his partner next to him to open fire. And they fired all of their rounds through the woman, killing both. So, but about a month before that, I'm talking maybe 6 weeks, I talked to Lori and I told her that I felt the guy, I had a confrontation with that guy actually because he was bullying somebody. And I went up to him, and again, I was just another homeless person technically. So I went up to him like on a street level. I was like, "What's up?" Because I don't fuck around. I was healthy as fuck, non-stop fitness. I wasn't the biggest person. I wasn't cut. I was just super crazy, insanely fit. Okay. So I went up to him and I was like, "Hey, what the fuck you want to try to do this shit?" And he's like, "I know what the other shit you do," because I heard him try to punk some lady too, but I couldn't do nothing about it because when they had a homeless sleeping shelter that was connected to the place, and they had to jump on a van to get a ride there. So, but when I saw him confronting someone, all that pent up info that I heard about him went up to me, got up into me, and I went up to his face, and I was like, ready to like, "Hey, dude, I know I could beat the living fucking shit out of you. What the fuck you think you could bully people around here? What do you want? How would you like it if I fucking bully you, bitch? You can't do fucking shit to me." So then she saw that on the video, the physical altercation, and then some guy came out of left field. This was a weird thing. We were just doing a stare down. And then because of my status as the cook guy, people really fell in love with me. I couldn't walk around without homeless people saying, "Hey, there you are," because they knew me. And it was interesting. It was nice, but frustrating from a isolated, a hermit. I like to be a hermit kind of person. I was like, wow, this is not what I wanted. I couldn't go anywhere and not be recognized. It was weird. I had to stay in the vicinity too. I only slept like a mile and a half, no, 2 miles away. I took the bus straight down the street on Van Nuys at Van Nuys Sherman Oaks Park at that time, just so I could stay close for work technically, because I started at 7:30 in the morning. So and I went till 2:30 in the afternoon. So, anyways, after the confrontation, Lori, she's like, "Hey, you're just a client volunteer here. I can't have you interacting with with clients like that." And I was like, told her, "Hey, this is the thing." I was like, "Look, I don't know." I was reading the book at the time. I was reading a book called Invisible Partners, by I forgot who it's by, but he's a student of Carl Jung. So I thought that I had extrapolated information from that book that was relevant to the situation. I'm not saying what I did was right, or what I think what I did was right. I know it was right. I should have done more. I should have just beat the living shit out of him. Technically, that would have been the right thing to do, even though I would have been kicked out because I left anyways. But he would have also, it would have changed something. But turns out that I was like, "Look, Guillermo," his name was Guillermo. I was like, "Look, you understand, this is where he's at in his life, and he is on the brink of a massive, basically breakup, psychological breakup. And if you do not constantly monitor him or keep him in check, if you allow him to come here, he's going to hurt somebody. Somebody is going to get hurt. You don't get it. This is not, I don't say that about anybody else. I never said this in any other place about a person. And it wasn't just because I confronted him. I confronted him because I really believed that this was a thing, and I was trying to impede some type of future event by making him see me as a threat. So Lori told me, well, you know what? That's not your call. I was like, well, you know what? If you don't kick him out, I can't continue to help. She's like, well, that's your choice. And I was like, okay. So that was my last day there. So then 6 weeks later, he was in jail for a weekend or something like that. He got out of jail. He felt that this girl that I also mentioned by name to Lori had manipulated him. So he wanted to get her back. So he snuck into the auditorium, which has access to the kitchen. He got a kitchen knife, and then he approached the girl, and he started to stab at her, and she used her hands to defend herself. And then she was able to get away from him, but he did cut her several times. Then the security protocols were lax. They had an ex-con running security who was just literally a wannabe gangster. That was because, again, the bottom of the barrel. So his security credentials was that he was a gangster that didn't let homeless people get away with shit. That was literally what it was. I forgot what his name was. And he still even tried to drive a gangster car, like a wannabe gangster car. But again, he got paid low bottom of the barrel shit. So his car was still a hoopty. Which just meant that he had a bigger ego. But he didn't do anything. They have video actually I saw video because one of the homeless people showed me that saw me at a McDonald's. Did you see what happened at Hope of the Valley? I was like, nah, I don't pay attention. They're like, they killed Guillermo. I was like, who killed Guillermo? And they're like, the cops, they killed Guillermo. They shot some lady too. The lady, I actually knew her. She was so grateful for the food that I was providing that she asked me if she could play a song for me. And if she played a song for me, would I sing along with it? And what song would I want to do? And I couldn't think of anything. So off the top of my head, I said Way Over Yonder by Carole King. She wanted to do it on guitar. And I said that because I was hoping to get out of it because that's a piano song. But she started working on that. This was a blind lady who was like in her 60s. So when the day came where she wanted to do it, and I was like, are you serious? I was like, I just can't do it. I'm really busy. I was just scared. I was just checking shit out. So I left. So when they told me who it was, that was like some kind of emotional tie. But anyway, so when I got out of jail, I went to jail for 26 days or 28 days from September to October in 2017. 2018. Got out the beginning of 2019. I didn't want to go back there, so I found this other place. I went to this other place, and then while I was there, I was helping volunteer. So same thing too. I'm not in the kitchen, but anything that they need, I help them do. So I ended up getting there early and helping them set up their chairs and their tables and their canopies because they like to provide shade for people. That was basically all I did. I did some cleaning up, and I even I ended up helping the church people on a regular basis and became personally involved in some of their lives, like meeting them at their houses and having dinner at their houses. And one individual actually technically let me stay at his house, but I mean, it was still boundaries. I wasn't trying to get in, but he wanted to extend something, but I was like, look, just if you want, just let me put my hammock in your backyard, because he had a patio with some things. He's like, if that's all you want, he's like, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. He's like, I just don't want any drugs at my house. And I was like, I don't do any drugs. So he was cool with that. So I did stay like that for like a month. And he would let me come in and take a shower whenever he was up and when he was home. One thing was he was very adamant straight up in the front. He's like, Tim, just keep it real. The trust issue that I have is that I just want to make sure we have one agreement. You never go in my house if I'm not home. And I'm like, 100% totally understand. No ifs, ands, or buts. So, but while I was there, one of the volunteers, she's talking with an accent. I was like, oh, where are you from? She's like, oh, I'm from Italy. And I was like, and she actually looks kind of like, she got this kind of nose, that kind of face, but she got red hair. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, oh, I study a lot of Roman history. I like, I kind of mess around with Latin too. She's like, oh, really? You mess around with Latin? And I was like, yeah, I got these quotes. I was like, actually, you know what? Maybe you could tell me how I'm reading these quotes. And so I did my thing, quam maligna, sacerdotali ignorantia. But I was also, I didn't know if it was ignorancia, if they do that cia thing with the TIA, or if they pronounce tia. And was the other one that I had an issue with? Oh, the C. I don't know if it was, where did the C go? Quam ipsum coitum. There's another C in there that I saw. Peccatorum. Oh, peccatum primorum parentum nihi aliud intelligi. Sacerdotally. I don't know if it's sacerdotally. It was just, I don't know. So she told me, she did some laughing stuff, and in Vederet, I was like, am I supposed to say in Vaderet? Are you supposed to make, or Verabatur? Am I supposed to say Verabatur? She's like, what is that? That's how they do it here. Everybody here says Verabatur. They make it a W out of the V. She's laughed. She's like, I was a lawyer in Italy before I came here. I was like, where'd you go to law school? She's like, I went to law school in Rome. I was like, whoa, so like you actually know Latin. She's like, yes, there is no W sound for the V. The V is the V. And she said the C is always a hard K sound. So I was like, okay, so here, let me give it a run. She's like, oh, that's pretty good. So she's like, you might like Catullus. And actually, since that came up, so this is why I got into Catullus, and I got some of his poems too. And like this one is one of my favorite ones. Decine de quaquam quicquam bene uye, oh, see this is hard, merire, aut aliquem fiere possea putare pium, omnia sunt ingrata. That's my favorite part. Omnia sunt ingrata, nihi fecisi benin prodest, imo etim tadet obestque unicum. That's a really hard one. I can't do that. Maybe it's the other one. Quidono lepidium novum lebelum arido modo pumique expolitum cornili tibi namque tu solabas meas es alicud putare nugas imtum cum usas es unus italorum omne alium tibus explicare cartis doctis Jupiter es laboriosis quare habet tibi quid hoc libelli qualcumque quod o patrona virgo plus uno maniet perne cyclo. So she introduced me to Catullus. She said I might want to, because it was a fun. So from that, she told me, then the pandemic hits. Okay, so this is 2019. So I'm there for the rest of the year, and as 2019 comes to the end and the pandemic is coming up, she's gone for a while. She's gone at the end of the year, I believe, up until January, sometime mid-January. So she comes back, and I was like, oh, I thought you stopped volunteering. She's like, oh no, I went back to see my family. And again, this is the beginning of the pandemic. And remember, in the beginning of the pandemic, New York and Italy were the two worst places on the planet, where they had hospitals, ambulances nonstop, and they had hospitals. And in New York in particular, they had their nights of banging pans for the emergency workers. So when she said she went to Italy, I was like, oh my gosh, how's your family? The pandemic, I see that's like 30,000 people have died. Oh my gosh, is your family okay? And she laughed. She's like, oh, no. That's in northern Italy. It's completely different. And I was like, what do you mean completely different? She's like, no, I'm from Calabria. I was like, it's southern Italy, the heel part and the toe. And I was like, really? I was like, that's that different? She's like, yeah. Down in the south, there's like nothing. I was like, what do you mean nothing? She's like, I don't even think one person had it. I was like, are you serious? I couldn't believe it. She's like, yeah. She's like, no, all of that is happening in the north and northern part. And she gave me some insight onto this divide in Italian culture that I wasn't familiar with. She told me how Calabria was, extremely poor regions and spread out a lot. It's very beautiful. So that just sparked a new interest in me. And put it like this, as far as helping personal, I helped her and her daughter, Valentina, who's named after Valentino, which is a name for Duke Valentino, was what they called Cesar Borgia, come to, just so you have a little footnote, that's in Machiavelli's The Prince, when he talks about Cesar Borgia. And it's Kesar. Again, C is hard K. So it's not, that's where Germans get Kaiser from, because they're using the Latin pronunciation. Kaiser is Kesar. That's another version of Caesar. What we would say for Caesar. So anyways, so she tells me about that. And then from there, I learn about the Ndrangheta. See, watch this. Normally my phone would have done that. I don't know why my phone didn't do that. Oh, hold on. Where am I at? Can't believe it didn't do that. Wow. I spelled that all the time. So anyways, that got me introduced to Drangheta, which prior to that time in my life, I thought there was only one mafia in Italy and it controlled all of Italy. I thought it was the Sicilians. But come to find out, the Sicilians are like the elementary school level mafia compared to the northern, the mainland mafias. And they're way older too. So that got me introduced to the Ndrangheta, which then opened up to the Camorra. So, which brings that back to this book, which is all Camorra or Gomorrah is two things. So these guys are like they are organized crime and an organized crime level, but their reach is to put it like this. My final conclusion, once I learned about them, because I had this theory before, but I was missing a component. Well, sure, I said the NATO forces went into Afghanistan just for the opium. But then the question is, okay, well, what do they do with opium since they control it? How do they get it out? What do they do? Do they use the military? Are they using the CIA? So it didn't make any sense until, okay, so again, these guys are big. The Camorra is bigger than the Ndrangheta. So, but just to show you, the Ndrangheta, as two famous Italian scholars phrase, the boundary of the Ndrangheta is the world, while its golden opportunity is globalization. Okay, undoubtedly, in fact, globalization and the celebration of capitalism have a key role in influence the main illicit activities chosen and planned by criminal organizations. It is sufficient to say that the latest Europrices report 2008 has estimated that 62% of the 44 billion euros gained by Ndrangheta through illicit activities is due to drug trafficking and specifically to cocaine market, specifically in Europe, cocaine market. While the total amount of illegal profits represents a value of around 2.9% of the country of Italy's gross domestic product. So again, that's just one organized crime. According to a cocaine market analysis provided by the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime 2016 report, in fact, the number of cocaine users has increased from some 14 million in 1998 to 18.3 million in 2016. The other thing too is they expanded their market into Australia, and Australia has had an economic boom. And with the boom, the white people there have taken to cocaine like they've taken to Jesus. Literally, Australia cocaine has become a booming market because they understand over here in America, the what they call the medium wage or something like that is like something like $36,000 a year. So like taxi cab driver, low income people, okay, like the people working for Hope of the Valley, they're going to be getting around $36,000 a year, which is just enough to be above the poverty line, where you don't get any resources, but not enough to have economic independence. You're basically still living check by check. So, at best. But in freaking an Australian dollar is pretty much just a couple pennies difference from the US dollar. Their medium is about $80,000 fucking dollars. Okay? So that's some hardcore shit. So the people, as you go up, the real estate agents over here in America that are making like $150,000 a year, over there, they're making like freaking $300,000 to $400,000 a year. And again, they can bring those dollars over here or go anywhere in the world, essentially, but also bring those dollars over to America, and it's almost an even exchange. But the catch is, it's not an even exchange because of that medium price of ours. Their dollars go a lot further than ours because they get a lot more of them for a lot less. So with that rise, cocaine has blown up. So, but the interesting thing about this that caught my attention was I was like, okay, but this is cocaine. So the Drangheta, you got to understand, they have to organize crime within organized crime organizations. They also have organization. Like you have the Sicilian Mafia. The most prominent example that we have in America would be the Sicilian Mafia creating under Lucky Luciano. This is what they claim. This is all fake shit though, because there's no such thing as a Sicilian Mafia anymore. They got taken over decades ago by these two main groups, because these two main groups, they have they're racist against the Sicilians. It's a crazy shit, but they think that the Sicilians are not Italian. They think of them as the N-word, the derogatory N-word for black people, because of the rule of the Moors for the most part. Even though they ruled South Italy too, where the Drangheta are, part of the deflection, the ego, the hubris is like, hey, they're the ones that are still black. We're not us. And as you go further north, this is what the lady told me too, at northern Italy is basically Germans. That was another thing. That taught me to the Lombards, where you have this Lombard region of Italy, which is the Lombard was a Germanic tribe that moved in during some imperial age that fought for an empire. An emperor of Rome. And when they were done, or was it a pope? It might have been fought for a pope in this after AD, something like 400 AD. Or 500 AD, they fought for a pope, and then the pope was scared for some reason, so he told them to be relocated to the Po Valley, which is northern Italy at the top, right, the south of the Alps. And that's another significant thing, because when I first learned about that region, actually, when Francis became pope, because what they marketed Francis as the first pope outside of Italy. But the truth of the matter was that he was raised, and this is still a conspiracy theory, but I remember in the beginning, there's no fucking, what do you call it? What's that weird shit that Mandela effect? There's no Mandela effect. I remember explicitly that I learned Pope Francis was born in Lombard, Italy. And when he was a baby, his family immigrated to South America. And was it? I even forgot what country it is now. Was it Argentina? Yeah, maybe it was Argentina. And then they had the military coup, and he was there, and he ended up helping the military coup stay in power by using the confessional as a spy device to reveal dissidents so that they could be rounded up, loaded onto helicopters, flown like 20 miles out into the sea or further, and then dropped out of the helicopter to save, bullets, and then just the helicopter returns. And, some, tens of thousands of people, I think it's like 30 to 50,000 people disappeared, if not more, at that time. And Pope Francis, who was a cardinal at that time, played a big role in facilitating that military dictatorship. So, and the other thing too is, when they say he's from Latin America, they're inferring that he's basically not European, but knowing that his family is from Lombard, not only, I didn't really know, I ended up learning that they said, so that was a whole big thing too, because you got to understand, German is a big thing in the popes. So Benedictine was a German, you had a Pole, was John Paul, but before that you had a lot of Germans going back for popes. So they were trying to whitewash or un-Germanize the papacy by saying, look, this guy's not even a freaking German. He's not even an Italian. He's like a Latino from South America. But in truth is, he was an Italian from the Germanic Lombard region, who they are the most racist Italians against the other Italians, because they identify themselves as white supremacists effectively, and everybody else as mixed race mongrels south of Milan, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so all right, try to stay back here. So then, so the theory is, I was like, okay, well, if these fools are controlling cocaine, and they're making all this money off of cocaine, but then these guys are bigger, so they have to have, by definition, they've got to make more money. So if they have to make more money, they have to have a bigger market. So if they're not making that $44 billion off of the cocaine, then that means that they don't need it. They don't want it. It actually benefits them that the Drangheta makes $44 billion off of, what was it, 44 or less than that? 62%. Oh, 62% of 44 billion. So was it like 20 almost $30 billion? 22 would be 50. So like $30 billion. So they're making like $30 billion off of coke. So I'm like, why wouldn't the Camorra just go in there and take that shit if they're bigger? Oh, because they got such a big market that doesn't mean shit. So then that introduced me to, I don't think I have it on here. And it's not directly related, but it's very closely related. Oh, that's Becca. I went on movies. I'm looking for shit. I literally fucking just forgot. Heroin. I'm looking for heroin. The Great Heroin Coup. Maybe here, over here. So then that got me into, I ended up getting this, in 2024 is when I listened to this. So this talks about how heroin, even when this book was made in like 1982, it was already making like $1 trillion market. And it was the necessary for all black ops, for the CIA, for MI6, for the FSB, for the fucking Swiss. You don't understand. The Swiss Guard has another type of CIA level shit that goes against anti-Catholic shit. You got MI6 in the UK. You got the French. The French one is really crazy. I got a quote that tells you who they are, but I don't really care. But so all of these European powers, they need there it goes, man. They need money to run SAC and SDEC. So those are the French kind of CIA, FBI kind of shit like that. So they're called black ops. So black ops need black funding. Black funding means off books. Off books means cash orientated. And heroin is a cash cow. So even though no one has ever said it like I say it straight up. NATO, there's only one way to say it. NATO invaded Afghanistan because the Taliban, the Taliban shut down opium production, and that shut down in 1 year. They went from making over 2,000 tons of pure opium that turned into multiple tons and tons and tons of heroin, because you get something like, depending on how you cut it, you can triple or quadruple or even make 10 times more heroin out of pure opium. And Afghanistan is the prime place for opium. And another book that talks about it too. Did I see that in there? Let me see. Let's do this. No, I don't got it here. I put it here. Did I put it in here though? I put it in here, I think. Oh, right here, yeah. Operation Gladio. So Operation Gladio also covers the heroin and Afghanistan. But I did have some charts in my stuff. I just don't have this phone organized. And because I use my memory cards that I have all this stuff on for my movies that I steal too. And I have it out right now because I've been using my laptop for the most part for entertainment. But anyways, so, the Taliban took power in 1999, and in the year, so harvesting opium harvesting opium is in March. The planting season is in December. Okay, so in March of 2001, the harvest season, the Afghanistan, the Taliban shut down opium cultivation and harvesting, and they put a fatwa on it with a penalty of death. So if you sold, held, possessed, used, or grew opium, they would kill you. And it went literally down to from over 2,000 tons of opium, raw opium coming out of Afghanistan every year, minimum. It got as high as I think 3,600 tons. That's under warlords, under various warlords. That Hamni Karzai, who was Obama's boy, his family was one of the most powerful warlord families who were the heroin producers prior to the war. And that's why he put him in power to reestablish the market. So, but when the Taliban took control, it went literally down to less than 80 tons, according to the UN, of opium was making it out of Afghanistan. And so, again, that's in March of 2001. So by planting season 2001, all of NATO forces had already invaded. And by March of 2002, harvest season produced over the higher than it ever produced under the decades previous, controlled by the warlords. It was something like 4,500 tons, which was a record. And then from there, it just continued to go up. And under Trump was the highest, where it reached something like 8,000 tons. And that was also towards the wind up of the war, what they call the war in Afghanistan, which again is not a war. But then they also had fentanyl on par with the Sackler family and the Johnson and Johnson family for the most part, which are Anglican, two English families. The Sacklers are actually Jewish. They try to say that they're from Hungary, but there's deep ties between the Order of St. George and Hungary. And it's the Order of St. George is considered the UK, but it originates in Hungary. It's the oldest chivalric order in Europe that's still maintained, and it directly ties to the British crown, the English crown. So, yeah, I don't have my graphs here. So anyways, that made me realize, damn, fucking the Camorra has to fucking, for them to be bigger, the only market that would be bigger, and it doesn't have any, and that it apparently the Drangheta isn't getting any, they're not getting dinged for it. So no one is saying that they're selling heroin. So if they're not selling heroin, it's not because they have a moral, disinclination. It's not like, hey, we're not going to sink that low and sell heroin to people. That's a dirty drug. No. It's because there's something preventing them from engaging in heroin sales. And the only thing powerful enough to influence the Drangheta to stay in line, so to speak, would be, you know what, let me just do this. Would be a bigger criminal organization saying, look, you have this piece of the pie and we have the rest of the pie. UN, opium manufacturing graft. Is that right? I think I spelled graph wrong. See, here we go. Booyah. This is beautiful. All right. So I have a bunch of these already. This is a good one right here. So as you see, a big drop due to Taliban before U.S.-led invasion deposed them at the end of 2001. So right here, it goes from about 3,500 or 3,600. And see, the high right there is close to 5,000. This is all the warlords prior to that little dip. That's all the warlords operating on behalf of European. But then the NATO joins. And as soon as NATO gets in, I'm sorry, I was wrong. You see, in NATO, they did reach about 3,500. And they got the going. And so you have, Obama was in office to 2012. So you see the height of that goes all the way up to close to 8,000. But then when you get into Trump over here, this highest one is, these highest two, these last ones are all Trump. These last like four, I believe, are all Trump. So that made me realize that's how big the Camorra is. And I did this whole video and I've been rambling on for 54 minutes now, this crazy shit, because I've been trying to say, like, they took that book, even though they got and Operation Gladio talks about it, very good book, gets into a lot of it. The Heroin Coup, awesome books. As you can see, they're still on it. But when I looked for the Camorra, and you can see, I mean, it's, so this is a book, Roberto Savini, but you see the little 32-minute things. Like I'm saying, I had it saved in my I had it saved in my watch later thing, but I went through my whole thing. That's what got me confused when I was making that playlist for Italy. I was like, so I had this. That's the cover. I was like, hey, I should put the Camorra in there because she talks about real estate. She's like, people build buildings and then they just leave them here, and they don't get it because that's a scam. One of the things that the Drangheta and Camorra do in real estate is it's just they siphon money out of the system by construction projects. That's what another one of the ways that they make big money. And that's something that happens over here in Burbank, California, with the Russian mob. They've made these big ass real estate developments that are supposed to be luxury living, but one of them they built over 3 years ago, and and it's built in an industrialized area where there's not supposed to be zoned for housing. And the Camorra book talks about the way that the Camorra operates in these little municipalities, and Burbank and Glendale are their own municipalities. So the Russian mob basically does the same thing. Is they convince them to rezone because that way they can buy dirt cheap property that no one else has access to because it's not zoned for living. And then they build quickly because they want to get in and get out. They get the money because it's all about just creating losses to siphon money out of the system, and cheap workers and all kinds of shit like that. And then once they get that shit, but you see, the book is not here, the full book. Um, but they so I wanted to put that because of what she was talking about, and relevant because I was gonna make a little short with a clip from it. I can still do that with my book, with my audio book that I stole, luckily. But crown saved by the ruthless. What is all this stuff? So they made a show in Italy about the Camorra, um, which is supposed to be really good. It's all in Italian, a gangster thing. It shows a little bit of them, but again, this is them talking about them. So same thing, kind of like with the Sicilian Mafia. My whole point is you gotta understand, the Sicilian Mafia, what we perceive to be the Sicilian Mafia, is propaganda created by the Camorra and the Drangheta to make the world believe that they don't exist. That's what it is. They don't want to be like, oh, fuck these Sicilians. We're way bigger than them. No, no, no. They want the world to think that the Sicilians are the biggest that there is and that there's nobody above them. And that keeps them safe in their own world. But actually, I can show you on that note. This one is probably the quickest little caveat into this. Oh, I gotta fucking... I like to use DuckDuckGo to bypass ads.
One of the leading Camoristas in New York was to stand and hold their glass and repeat, health to all Neapolitans and death and destruction to all Sicilians.